The Phantom Troupe are one of the most compelling elements of the Hunter x Hunter franchise. Though they began as outcasts in a forgotten city, they quickly became fan favorites. There's something about their camaraderie that made viewers want to cheer for them even though they were villains. With characters as mysterious and intriguing as Krolo or as powerful as Hisoka, it's no surprise that discussions about the troupe are popular among Hunter x Hunter fans, and while their pre-existing number system may make ranking them seem easy, a surface glance at the members shows a lot of room for debate. My name is Hoodie, this is Kato, and today we're going to rank every single member of the Phantom Troupe based on who is the strongest. This is primarily going to be looking at their nen abilities and how they might stack up in 101s. We don't know nearly enough about every member here, but let's give it our best shot. Number 15, Pakunoda. Despite being a member of the Phantom Troupe, Pakunoda is not well suited for combat. Her nen ability allows her to read minds, which is useful for reconnaissance, but not much else in a fight. She's basically just slightly faster and stronger than the average nen user, making her the weakest member of the troupe. Number 14, Cordapi. Deciding between Pakunoda and Cordapi was a little tricky, but ultimately I think Cordapi seemed just slightly stronger. Just like Pakunoda, he's more of a supportive fighter. His nen ability basically allows him to clone anything he touches. The ability was great when he wanted to clone the Phantom Troupe's hideout, but it leaves something to be desired in an actual fight. Still, unlike Pakunoda, it's at least theoretically useful. In the world of Hunter x Hunter where every fight is approached strategically, I could see these clones being a decent distraction or diversion. That's at least more than I can say about Pakunoda's mind reading. Number 13, Kalito. Now we're on to the spiders that actually have things to offer in serious fights. Putting Kalito here is pretty reasonable since they admit that they're the troupe's weakest member. They're still a formidable fighter, being trained in all of the same assassination techniques Killua would have been, and we've seen time and time again how deadly those are. Using nen, they can manipulate paper with the help of their fan. We saw them use this to absolutely tear apart a chimera ant in a giant vortex of wind and sharp paper. I think it's safe to say that that alone puts them in a tier above everyone we've talked about before. Number 12, Nobunaga. This is probably a controversial take, but hear me out. We have quite literally never seen Nobunaga actually fight. All we know is that he's very fast, he's very good with a sword, and he's the 9th physically strongest member of the Phantom Troupe. Yes, that is literally it. We don't even really know what his nen ability is. We know that he was Uvulgin's partner, and while Nobunaga is obviously weaker, it's hard to say how weak or how strong he really is. Consider this ranking as more of a placeholder for someone we know basically nothing about. Number 11, Shizuku. Shizuku is interesting because on paper she's more of a supportive nen user than anything else. Her vacuum blinky can suck up pretty much anything that isn't alive. This is great for people like the Phantom Troupe who might need to run away with a lot of things in a hurry. Still, it's not very combat focused, is it? That's until you realize Blinky has no problem sucking the blood right out of another person if it wants to. Shizuku is more than strong enough to give anyone a few basic wounds with just hand to hand or using her vacuum like a club. And remember that just a few small cuts and scrapes will do. After that, it's pretty much game over as she dries out opponents into a complete husk. Number 10, Franklin. Franklin is a very strong fighter, and in a different setting, I think he'd rank higher than where I'm putting him. Franklin can fire nen-infused bullets out of his hands. These nen bullets are so strong that they could pierce through other nen users' abilities. This is especially impressive since traditionally nen abilities get weaker the farther they go from the user, so Franklin being able to hurt anyone with these is pretty amazing. In a group setting where Franklin has to fight multiple people, he shines. The only problem is that this might be a little lacking in a straight one-on-one, where Franklin's basically just firing bullets that move at the speed of, well, bullets. Compared to some of the other members on this list, I think we can all agree that this isn't the most dangerous ability in the world. But Nolanov has easily one of the strangest fighting styles in all of anime. Using the holes in his body to play music like a flute, he gains different abilities based on the kind of song he plays. We've only seen him use this for two things, the most dangerous of which was the ability Jupiter. Using this technique, Nolanov created a mini planet out of thin air, crushing anything close enough to hear the sound of his music. This is pretty much an instant one-shot and is the speed of sound, so it's basically impossible to avoid. The only reason he isn't higher on this list is because pretty much everyone else in the troupe could do exactly that and avoid the sound. In the York New City arc, Uvulgin lets out a huge shout capable of destroying a boulder. He doesn't warn his fellow troupe members, and when they complain, he just tells them that they're fast enough to cover their ears long before they get hurt. I think that makes a pretty good case for Nolanov being one of the troupe's more counterable members. Number 8, Shallmark. Shallmark has a pretty fun ability. Using an antenna, he can control anyone's body with his nen. Now, I don't think I need to say why this ability is super strong, especially in a one-on-one. Thankfully, the placement of this has to be pretty precise, and it is possible for an opponent to take it off. It's just that in the few seconds of complete chaos this will cause, Shallmark has all the time in the world to end the fight. If that doesn't work, he could use his own antenna to give himself a massive strength and speed boost. This is more of a final do or die move since Shallmark has no control over himself until whoever he's fighting is dead. Still, it's a pretty strong trump card. Number 7. Finks. Finks is the second physically strongest member of the Phantom Troupe, and he lives up to that reputation. This man is essentially a walking tank with one of the most potentially broken abilities in all of Hunter x Hunter. His ability, Ripper Cyclotron, allows him to wind up one of his arms. The more times he winds it up, the stronger his next punch gets. Now, we have no idea if there's a limit to how many times Finks can do this. We saw him do it just 15 times to one-shot a Chimera Ant, but it's never stated that he can't go much higher. It's even possible that at some point, Finks might be able to knock out the people above him on this list. My only issue is that I don't see anyone actually capable of giving him the time to charge up this one punch, and what happens if he just misses? It's a theoretically massive ability, but there's a reason Finks is where he is on my list. Number 6. Uvulgin. Uvulgin is pretty much just the Hulk if he had Nen. Being even stronger than Finks, his only real use of Nen is empowering his body to hit hard. The thing is, Uvulgin hits very hard. He's insanely durable, insanely fast, and insanely strong. To most Nen users, Uvulgin would just blitz through them and their fancy Nen abilities, destroying them with raw strength. His ultimate move, the Big Bang Impact, is described as having the impact of a small missile. In terms of sheer raw power, Uvulgin is probably the strongest member here. But that's the problem. Everyone higher on this list has more tricks up their sleeve while not necessarily being people that could just be speed blitzed. In a world where fights are more like chess matches than straight duels, Uvulgin's strength can only take him so far. Number 5. Machi. Machi has an almost perfect ability. She has Nen threads, which can either be used at close or long range. She could use them to cut people, hold them in place, or just bludgeon them. The longer these threads are, the weaker they get. Still, it's safe to assume that at any fighting distance, they'd be deadly. The reason this ability is so strong is that closing the gap is hardly a weakness. At that range, her threat is just a dozen tiny swords, and we saw how fast Machi was when she healed Hisoka's arms. Now, imagine that Machi wielding these threads to instantly slice up anyone dumb enough to get close to her. And for that reason, she deserves a pretty high up spot on this list. Number 4. Ilumi. Ilumi is interesting. Just like Nobunaga, we've never actually seen him fight seriously. It's obvious Ilumi has a lot more up his sleeve, but we've just never seen it. However, the reason I rank him here, unlike Nobunaga, is that we could at least take a pretty educated guess. It's pretty obvious that he's meant to somewhat rival Hisoka in strength, and his place within the Zoldyck hierarchy definitely implies some level of respectable power. It's frankly possible that Ilumi will be much higher on this list when we see more of him in the manga. Number 3. Faton. Faton is the second in command of the Phantom Troupe, and for good reason. Besides being an expert swordsman like Nobunaga, he also has one of the deadliest Nen abilities in the entire series. His ability, Pain Packer, forms a giant suit of armor around his body. This suit is used to form one of several powerful techniques, though we've only ever seen one to date. The key is that the strength of these techniques depends directly on how much damage he has taken, making him stronger the stronger his opponent is. The one ability we saw was Rising Sun, which literally formed a miniature sun that burned anything near it to cinders. Faton used it against a Chimera Ant squadron leader and instantly turned her to ash. All of the other troop members were forced to run away because it would definitely kill them too. If that wasn't enough, this was apparently him in his rusty state. Just this strength alone gave Kalito a mini existential crisis. Number 2. Krolo. Krolo definitely has one of the most versatile skill sets in the series. His ability allows him to steal other people's abilities, using them as efficiently as their owner ever had. He stores people's Nen's abilities in a special book under a few strict conditions. When we first meet him, he's limited to one ability and he has to keep his hands on the book at all times. But later on, Krolo bypasses this limit and is able to use 2 abilities while using both hands unimpeded. There's a reason Krolo was able to toy with the 2 strongest assassins on the planet, and if it wasn't for our last entry, he'd definitely be first on this list. Number 1. Hisoka. Bungee gum has the property of both rubber and gum. It sounds almost silly, but this little versatile ability makes Hisoka one of the most dangerous Nen users on the planet. I'm sure plenty of you remember some of his creative uses of this technique, but it goes even further in the manga. In the manga, it takes Krolo stealing the ability of every other Phantom Troupe member to barely beat out Hisoka in a close fight. That alone is reason enough to put Hisoka at the top of this list, and after that, Hisoka has only gotten even stronger. At this point in the story, there is no doubt that Hisoka would have no problem defeating anyone remaining remaining in the troupe, though his inevitable rematch with Krolo will definitely be one to watch. But that's just my list. What do you guys think? Is Krolo stronger than Hisoka? Am I underestimating Nobunaga? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on that notification bell. Before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of the incredible patrons over at patreon.com/KatoYT. We're super active in our patron Discord server, occasionally throwing some late night anime movie watch parties, so if that's something you're interested in, pledge just a single $1 to get an invite. You could also follow us on Twitter at KatoBeyond. Links to everything will be in the description. Again, my name is Hoodie Song, this is Kato, and thank you for watching.